Welcome to CSEC Biology TCP. I am Mr. Wilson, and today we're doing an overview of a 2017 Biology Paper 1. We're going to be going from question 31 to 60. We invite you to grab your texts, grab your teachers, grab your friends, and let's go where the answers intercept. We all may be on the same page. Let's move on right into the questions. Question 31. The best description of a role of excretion in living organism is to, this is a popularly repeated question, produce urine, the excretory system does that. Produce feces, feces is not an excretory product, it's an ingested product. Get rid of toxic waste, of course, that sounds like the answer to me. Get rid of excess water. The most suitable answer here is going to be, just before we answer, please be reminded to like, share, and subscribe. And when you subscribe, remember to click that notification bell and select all so you'll be notified as soon as there is a new publication. Alright, remember also to read the comments below the video to see what are the updates regarding the video when we post. So our answer here is going to be C. Alright, so C is the answer there. So we'll move to 32. 32. Which of the following is not a form of excretion in plants? So excretion in plant is somewhat a little different than it is in animals. Carbon dioxide diffusing in through the stomata, that definitely wouldn't, which is not, okay, not. So carbon dioxide diffusing, of course, in through the stomata is definitely not a type of excretion. The plant is going to use that there for photosynthesis. So it seems as if we have just hit the right answer, but it's always good to read the others. Substances being stored, those are example. Water vapor diffuse, that's example. And of course, stored gas, all of those are, of course, types of excretion in plant. So our answer here is, of course, going to be A. And we move to 33. Which of the following correctly describes movement in plant? Now, this is a popularly repeated question. Really popular question, and because it is so popular, I call out on the entire TCP family to look at this question because it is so popular that it suggests that we're not answering it well. Tell me in the comment if you are in agreement with me. I'm going C. Tell me what's your choice in the comment. Share it with your teacher because it's always on the paper and we are almost certain it will be on the paper again. Thirty-four. Which of the following statement about the skeletal system is not correct? Not correct. Alright, pay attention to that. Not, underline it in your exam. It protects delicate organs such as the heart and lungs. That is true. It is made up of hard, non-living tissue. Non-living. If it's non-living, no. It produces red and white blood cells. That is true. And it gives the body shape. This non-living thing here, if it's non-living, then it can't grow. So this is something for us to look at. Alright, so B the answer there for us. Alright, we'll move to 35, which refers to the following diagrams. And let us not be mistaken. 35 refers to the following diagrams. Let us not be mistaken. Here we are looking at the bicep and tricep. So we are looking pretty much at the attachment of a muscle where it's attached. Now, which of a muscle bone attachment shown above is correct? Well, right away A is out. You don't have this muscle coming across like this. This muscle doesn't come this far around. What about this one? Oh no, this one is not even touching the ulna. So it's going to be this one. Pretty much the better choice here, D. So we're going to go with D for this. Alright, 35 it's going to be. 35. muscle to bone attachment, that's what we just covered. This is pretty interesting. We are looking now at more tropism and photosynthesis together. So item 36 refers to the following diagram illustrating an experiment. An experiment here we are looking at how the shoot of the plant or their lacking thereof will respond to light. So we're seeing I, you can just look at the setup, and 2 and 3 and 4, we're seeing all the setup there. After a few days, the tallest shoot would most likely be which one? Alright, so the tallest shoot is definitely going to be 1. And why 1? Because like you would have a piece of zinc on the grass is unable to, or a plant there is unable to photosynthesize. What it will do, it will use up its reserve to grow as fast as it can in order to get to the sun, a process we refer to as etiolation. So here the plant will etiolate in I, thus producing this long or taller shoot than the others. A is our answer. And we move on to 37. Item 37. Which of the following best describes the term stimulus and response? Now this question repeated pretty much about 3 times in a row, it seems. Alright, so our answer for this one, you are required to read through, but we know that stimulus is pretty much a detectable change in an organism environment, and an organism, the way the organism react or respond is pretty much response. So we could look clearly and see that D here is the preferred choice. Looking at 38, it is a popular question on the paper. When it appears 2 ways. It either appears like this, or it appears with the relay neuron in the middle. And sometimes we're not even sure if it's a relay neuron or what. Based on how it is drawn and photocopied, we can't even make the distinction. But if the relay neuron is in the middle, right, then in that case, it is going to be the relay neuron in the middle. In this case, what we have here is, of course, the receptor being 1, and 2, we will have to look at 2 as being, it doesn't have a cell body, so we can't say sensory neuron. It's going to be the spinal nerves. So we have to be very careful with this diagram. In some cases, it is the spinal nerves. In some cases, it is the relay neuron. And sometimes the drawing, like I say, is a little tricky. You can't say exactly what is happening where. So for this particular case, we are looking at, it's not the sensory neuron. So we are looking at the receptor and, of course, the spinal nerves. And, of course, it's going to be the effector on the other end. So D here being our answer. Alright, so you want to pay keen attention to this area. That is the area that is going to make the difference, whether it's going to be the spinal nerves or the relay or motor neuron. The smell of hamburger being cooked caused Joan to salivate. Which of the following is the effector which brings about the response? So salivate. So we're salivate meaning that you're getting that saliva. So to salivate is definitely going to be the salivary gland. You could look at secretion of saliva, but where is it coming from? Is it not from the salivary gland? So remember that an effector is either going to be a muscle or a gland. Alright, so that is like a default. Once you're seeing effector, muscles or gland. And we move on to 40. Interesting, 40 is a graph. We've done a lot of work with graphs. And it refers to the following graph, which shows changes in the dry mass of an embryo and in endosperm during a germination. The plant is storing some amount of energy there for growth. Alright, so it will have things stored there in the cotyledon. Now from the graph, it is true to say that, alright, so the dotted line is a decrease in whatever is happening. The dotted line, the endosperm, is showing a decrease. The embryo on the other hand is showing an increase. So one line is showing a decrease, So one is saying as time increases, dry mass decreases, while the other is saying that, so endosperm is saying as time increases, the dry mass for it decreases. The embryo is saying that as time increases, the dry mass also increases. Let us look at what the question is asking. We're supposed to identify what is true. The embryo begins to grow as the endosperm increases in mass. The embryo and the endosperm decreases in mass as at the same time. That is totally out. The embryo and the endosperm increase in mass at the same time. Not true. As the embryo grows, the food reserve are gradually depleted. So you're seeing the depletion here in the food reserve. So we're going to go with D. Alright, remember that the curve coming down usually show decrease. Law of supply and demand, you would have seen those curves. The best description of the AIDS virus is a description. Alright, so one thing we need to hammer in our head before we look at these, we have to remember that the AIDS virus is RNA related, right? And one of the treatment you must know about AZT. Alright, control monogamy, stick to one partner. Best prevention, don't do anything at all. They call it abstinence, and of course the use of condom. Public education, we've had a whole lot of publication and it's just not working. Alright, antibiotic will not treat AIDS because antibiotic treat bacteria and not a virus. Alright, so we have to pay attention to that. Penicillin, antibiotics, so it won't work. Alright, so our answer here is definitely going to be C. You can find my live where I would have done an extensive lesson on AIDS. 42. Production of new organism from one parent only is known as, if it's coming from one parent only, one parent. Now A is going to be the fusion of a male and female gamete, so that is sexual reproduction. So B is going to be our answer, which is of course as a result of mitosis, while A would have been as a result of meiosis. Now the single parent here is of course going to be asexual reproduction, so it's going to be B. Alright, 43. Which of the following form of birth control is most likely 100% effective? Not the diaphragm, not the condom, those burst from time to time. Contraceptive pill, they are effective, but they have their limitations as well. But if you were supposed to sever the tube in tubal ligation, right, that would have been like 100% effective. You don't even have to remember that you need to sever it tomorrow, but you probably would have to remember that you need to take the pill or you had missed the pill. So I would go for B for 43. And we'll move on to 44, and we're going nicely. 44. Now we have to get used to these two diagrams. I have seen them so often. The one with the fluorescent, which is I. This one here with the fluorescence. That one is usually insect pollinated. It has this tube and the insect go down into the tube. The one here with this feathery protrusion, that is usually wind pollinated. It's like a given, we know that over the years. Once you see these two diagrams, you know that that one is going, 2 is going to be wind pollinated. The one with the fluorescence is going to be insect pollinated. But let us look at what the question really asks. I just want to teach you that bit. You just look at these two things and you know what they are. Alright? And you are seeing the filament on the outside here that also support the whole wind pollination. So it's like it's naked. Alright? Which of the following statement is true of both flowers? So let us look at what is there. Both are wind pollinated. No. 2 is of course wind pollinated, but not I, or not 1. And then petals are absent from both 1 and 2. That is not true. true either. Both are pollinated by hummingbird. That is not true either. Alright, so the hummingbird would have been pollinating number 1, while wind would have been pollinating number 2. The other thing now, 1 is pollinated by the hummingbird and 2 is pollinated by wind. This is the nice answer there. We would have done a video on pollination. You can check it out. It is on our channel and it gives you just about everything you need to know for the syllabus on pollination. We move to question 45. And question 45, fertilization normally occurs in the uterus, vagina, oviduct, ovaries. Alright, I like to just hop onto it when it's very easy like this. It's implantation that takes place in the uterus. It is pretty much the copulation that would have been taking place in the vagina. And of course the ovaries release the eggs. So fertilization takes place in the fallopian tube or oviduct, making C the answer here. We move on to question 46. Question 46 to 47 refers to the following organisms. So we have host, vector, parasite, pathogen. We're seeing a whole lot of repeated questions here. I do hope that you are following with your textbook. Consult your teacher where there is anomaly to make sure that that is all sorted out. We want you to get 1 for the exam. In answering item 46 to 47, match the following description to one of the options above. Each option may be used once, more than once, or not at all. 46. An organism which causes a disease. That is referred to as a pathogen. So we are going to have D here. Alright? I can't write, but that's going to be D. Organism that causes a pathogen, that causes a disease, is a pathogen. Alright? An organism which carries disease causing organism but is not adversely affected by it, that is of course going to be a vector. Alright? So the vector there is going to be responsible for that. So we move to 48. That wasn't so difficult after all. 48. Which of the following is not a consequence of plant or human disease? This is a very interesting question. It's not a consequence. So it doesn't happen because of human or plant disease. So loss of productivity, that happens because of plant or human disease. Higher absenteeism from school. If you don't have any money and you're sick, you can't go to school. Larger part of national budget used to buy medication. You would have seen that every country spends a whole lot of money to buy the medication for COVID. So the best answer here is of course going to be A. Now 49. Which of the following method would be most appropriate for the treatment of chronic hypertension? I am yet to see a paper without hypertension or diabetes. If you have a paper that doesn't have hypertension or diabetes on it, send it to me in the email, the channel email. We really want to see that paper that comes and it doesn't have hypertension on it or it doesn't have diabetes on it. If you have that paper, it's a paper that we want to see. Alright, 49. Which of the following method would be most appropriate for the treatment of chronic hypertension? And we have diet. We have diet modification. That this is hypertension now. We have exercise, and we also have vaccination. Vaccination doesn't work for hypertension. If that worked, we would have gotten rid of that long time. So it's always going to be your diet and your exercise program, which makes it 1 and 2. Definitely not vaccination. Alright? And we go on to 50. Applying a thin layer of oil on the surface of an open pond containing open pond can control the population of mosquitoes, because so we want to know why this can control the mosquito. Now just let me put a disclaimer here. We don't want to go outside and we have this swamp and we carry some engine oil from the garage to dump in the swamp, because it's an ecosystem in itself, and of course it would have fish or something there that should assist with controlling the mosquitoes. So please do not go with your engine oil from your factory or your refuse from your restaurant to dump it in any ecosystem saying that you are controlling mosquitoes. Allow the authorities to treat with that. So let's try to find the answer here for 50. Alright, so we have mosquitoes cannot feed on an oily surface. That is not the real reason. A layer of oil make it difficult for the larvae to obtain food. Is it about food now? A layer of oil prevents the pupae from being able to obtain air. It's about breathing, right? A mosquito cannot fly if their wings are covered with a film of oil. But we're not really trying to treat the adult itself when it comes to the oil. We are trying to treat the stages that are in the water. So here it would have been better to use C, alright, because that's going to affect the surface tension of the water, and the mosquito will not be able to breathe and all of that. But it is around breathing that we use it for C. Alright, so 50, your answer there is going to be C. And we move on down to 51, and a very long question. Most persons hate this type of a question. It's so wordy. Alright, so let us look at this anyhow. On a certain Caribbean island where sugarcane is grown, a fungus is accidentally introduced into the island and it destroys the entire crop of sugarcane. Interesting here. Which of the following best describes what happened? Alright, so this suggests that there is no variation, because we have the same thing, same place. There's no variation. Being able to adapt, they would have to have some amount of variation. So we know that the plants were old. That is not pretty much the answer. The plants were not of hardy. No, it doesn't matter how hardy you are, there is always environmental resistance that will affect you. The plants were planted too close. Not in this case. Sugarcane, that's how they are usually planted, and that's not really the answer here. There was no genetic variation among the plant, so none could survive the attack. So there is no variation. If you understand, sugarcane is one of those plants that are propagated asexually, so usually there is no variation. So we move along with D. Alright, so we move to 52. 52, which of the following statement best describes a chromosome? And again, we have to give up that which we learned about coiled thread of protein, and we have to start to get a little deeper. Alright, two forms of same genes, that's out. Structure made up of DNA wrapped around a histone. Look at that, that's a beautiful response. C, nucleic acid that contain all genetic information. Wow, that sounds like DNA. Part of the DNA, no. So just let's just get to the answer. The answer here is of course going to be B. So we'll move on to 43. 43. Which of the following is not a characteristic of meiosis? Interesting, meiosis. We haven't had that a little while now. Alright, so maintains the diploid number. Alright, no, that is something for mitosis. When we talk about diploid, we are talking about the full number. When we talk about haploid, we are talking about half the number. So which one is not? Right away we can pick up A as being not. But let us read through as we should do. Random assortment of genes? No. That would have been somewhere in meiosis, prophase 1 or something like that. Crossing over, there we have it, prophase 1 crossing over, genetic recombination. The answer here is of course going to be A. Let's look at 54. 54, exact question seems to have been repeated. I am not able to draw, but if you were supposed to look at, go to my website or go to my channel, my YouTube channel, and go to my genetic playlist, you could see how this question is supposed to be solved. So we are looking at Tarzan and Jane, both of whom are heterozygous for the blood group A and B. Now if they are heterozygous for the blood group A and B, it means that the blood group that they would have AO blood group and BO blood group, because O is pretty much a recessive allele in the case here, respectively, and can have offspring that are likely to be, alright, so if they are both heterozygous for the trait, so they, like I said before, they are AO and BO. Now when you do all that segregation, what you're going to have happen is that you are going to have what is called a Punnett square. It has 3 columns and 3 rows, with the first cell, that is the first cell in the first column, in the first row of the first column is not used, and then you would put an A in one of the cells for the first column, for the second column, and an O in the third column, and then in the rows you're going to have a B in the second row, and of course you're going to have a O in the third row. Now where the top letters intercept with the letters at the side, you're going to write it down, and what you're going to find is that you're going to end up with something like this. You're going to be getting one of the organisms with a O. It will be OO, but it can be represented as O by itself, and here it will be AO, but it can be represented by AA, here again represented by B. However, this is codominant, so it is represented as AB. None is more than the other. So our answer for 54 is of course going to be D. And we'll move on to 55. Which of the following terms refer to visible characteristic of living things? Visible characteristics of living things. So if you can see it, it's going to be the phenotype, but the genetic makeup are going to, of course, be the genotype. Alright, those are the letters that we're using when we are doing all these crosses. So phenotype there, C being your answer. The other thing we want to look at is 56. And again, this is a repeated question coming directly from paper 2016. I want you to follow the paper in sequence. I would have given you about 10 years worth of past paper now. No one can complain. I hid nothing at all. All you need to do is to follow with your textbook and your teacher. Please be reminded to like, share, and subscribe. Tell someone about the channel and leave a comment after you watch the video. Make sure you read the comments below the video to see if there's anything there need to be corrected, or anything that you need to add, or if there's any new information that we would have posted there. And you want to join us for our marathon when they're available. So that is why you want to ensure you click that notification bell when you subscribe and select all so you can follow us. Now we looked at codominance in the genetic cross we did just now. Now in this particular genetic cross we are looking at sex-linked inheritance or X-linked inheritance. What happened here is that the condition is carried on the X chromosome and not on the Y. Now why it's not carried on the Y, you can go to my channel, select my genetic playlist, and you will have it all explained and work out over there. Now I can't draw the Punnett square here, but if we were supposed to use this table, it could pretty much represent a Punnett square, except that it would have wanted another column here. No, we have enough columns, so it's that we wouldn't have used this cell. That is what we were saying earlier. We'd put this thing here and this thing here and do the cross. Alright, so to do this, our answer here would have been A. If you don't understand how to do it, as soon as you see me on the live, I will just go through it again. I have done it a million times, but I'll do it again. Or you can just go to the video on my channel that says genetics. You'll find it. This is inheritance, sex-linked inheritance. Alright, so that's going to be your answer there. And we move on down to 57. And 57 reads, which of the following describes the final stage of a process of meiosis. Alright, nobody likes these type of questions. They're at the back of the syllabus and most persons seldomly get there. Alright, so the final stages of meiosis, you are going to have separation of the sister chromatin, homologous chromosome pair up, homologous chromosome separate. You are going to have chromosome crossing over. No. The answer here is that we're going to be having, and this is straight textbook, you could check your textbook, we're going to be having a separation of the chromatids. Alright, tell me in the comment what you saw in your book. 58. A species consists of members that are usually able to interbreed and produce via offspring. We would have had the horse and the donkey producing the mule, and the lion and the tiger producing the liger. So looking at this, occupy the same habitat, not necessarily. Reproduce by asexual means. Pretty much your answer here, answer is going to be C. Your answer here is going to be C. Alright, if you have any question, you can leave it in the comments below. Alright, 59. The theory of evolution is based on natural selection. Charles Darwin. Which of the following is not a feature of natural selection? We are at 59. Alright, so variation that can be passed on to the next generation. That's a feature. An environment that does not change. Well, that is what drives evolution, because changes in the environment. Alright, just not matching the organism. Alright, overproduction of offspring. No. Competition for limited food supplies. Here, the not is going to be B. All the others, holy moly. Which of the following would be involved in the production of insulin by genetic engineering? Transfer of human insulin genes to bacteria. Interesting. We have seen this ended as a diagram on biology paper for both HSB and biology, and now we're seeing it as words on the paper. A vector is vector to transfer the insulin gene, production of insulin by bacteria. We're going to go with D for this one, which takes us to the end of the 2017 biology paper 1. I do hope that this is of great help to you as we look forward to see you after you would have aced your exam. Please be reminded to like, share and subscribe. Leave us a comment, and of course when you subscribe, remember to click that notification bell and select all. Until next time, take care.